Hey, this is your boy K-Dub from the Bulls Guys Podcast. The Bulls Guys Podcast originated on March 31st, 2020, and has been an unbelievable ride with me and my boy Greg ever since. How would you like to experience that same unbelievable experience with your very own podcast? Well, now you can with the Anchor app. They provide you with the creation tools needed to record your very own podcast right from your phone or your computer. So what are you waiting for? Go to Anchor right now and create your very own podcast so you can experience that same joy it's like to have your very own voice. And tell them Kenyatta Wright sent you. Welcome to episode 20 of the Bulls Guys Podcast. I'm your host, K-Dub Kenyatta Wright, and this is my co-host, Mr. Greg Love from Chicago, Illinois.
What's going on?
Greg, the Bulls have been letting me down, and I know they have been letting a lot of Chicagoans down. You're going to tell me if they have, since you're a resident. We're going to get into stats, and how well or how bad the team has been playing in the last 5 games. We're going to give our opinion on why the Bulls have been sliding as of late, losing 7 of their last 10 games. We're going to get right in and give our opinions right after this.
You're listening to the Bulls Guys Podcast, where we talk about your Chicago Bulls and give an unbiased take. Thank you for listening, and like and subscribe.
How do you feel about the Bulls? How would you like to be on our show, the Bulls Guys Podcast, and give your thoughts on the team? Send us your emails at talkingbulls82@gmail.com, and we'll be glad to have you on.
All right, we're back on the Bulls Guys Podcast, and Greg, the Bulls have been really letting us down as of late, losing 7 of their last 10 games. The Bulls star DeMar DeRozan couldn't hide how he felt about the loss. Was quoted saying that at some point we've got to get tired of getting our butt kicked like this and flip that switch of understanding. All right, enough is enough. Now it's time to turn it around and show that desperation. DeMar is also out tonight. Well, not out tonight, but out Thursday for Thursday's games against the Pelicans with an adductor injury. And Levine is probable for Thursday's game. And, man, it's just been to a point, Greg, where I just don't know, man. Seeing this game last night basically made me feel like, it's the end of the world for this team. It's the end of the year. I can't see this team making it to the playoffs and actually winning a playoff series playing the way they're playing. The Bulls are giving up 122 points in their last 5 games, 122 points per game, giving up 72 points in the paint. They're giving up 46 rebounds per game in their last 5 games, Greg. They're giving up 11 turnovers per game in their last 5 games, and they're turning over the ball 14 times per game. Oh, I'm sorry. They're giving up 14 points off of their turnovers in their last 5 games. Really horrendous numbers. And yesterday, it just hurt my eyes to even see that, Greg. But Milwaukee Bucks players just getting right at the rim. Nobody's guarding them. Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso was the only ones attacking the basket. And you just don't see a sense of urgency from this team, especially against a team that, they're expected to see down the road in the playoffs, a team that is expected to contend for an NBA title. And the Bulls are now, 0-17 against teams with winning records, Greg? Uh,
Yeah, I think it's 0-16, 0-17, something like that.
yeah, man, it's really bad stuff, man. And at this point, man, I'm starting to question a lot about this team, and I got a lot I got to say in today's podcast. But I'm gonna let you give your piece, Mister Co-host.
Well, I'll say this. First off, things are going to get worse before it gets better because I just found out Kyrie's going to be able to play at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Bulls happen to run into Brooklyn in the playoffs, it's going to be a lot worse. But,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this. I think a lot of it's on coaching, in my opinion. And I think, with DeMar, I think he's finally letting his true kind of feelings be known because but just prior to Monday's game, there was an article posted when he's talking about seeing the beauty in losses like this. Like, yeah, it's ugly, and then he's just saying the best way to learn is to get knocked in the mouth like we're doing. So now it's just a matter of us responding, and he thinks once it clicks, they'll be fine, right? Like, so this was just before they won on Monday in against Toronto. Now you go up to Milwaukee and get your butts handed to you, and now your tone changes, right? So I think a lot of that positivity that he's been kind of preaching all year, I feel like that is for image purposes more so for the media and for the fans, just kind of saying, "Hey, relax, we'll figure it out," type of thing. I would
Mm-hmm.
hope that there's some type of fire that goes on behind closed doors that we're not seeing. That these guys really want to get it together, figure out how to win. I think the biggest thing is for me in observing them is they have become so jump shot happy, like
Mm-hmm.
ridiculously jump shot happy. I get it. I get Demar is the master of the mid range. Not knocking it, but everybody's jump shot happy. Like that's just kind of the thing. And I think you need to attack the basket. I also understand that it's frustrating when you're not getting these foul calls either as you're attacking the basket. Like I
Right.
mentioned, last podcast where Zach, every time he drives to the hole, he's turning around to the referee. But at the same time, like I don't think that should hinder your aggressiveness. I think you need to force the referees who have to give you this call, like make it so blatant and so obvious that either the league is gonna be like, "Hey, man, like what's going on here," or something because
No, he was
yeah,
getting really beat up really bad down there yesterday, Greg. I mean, he was going into two Milwaukee Bucks players just conversion on him, and they just wouldn't give him the foul. And I'm like, dude, everybody in the world see that this man getting hit, yo. Like it's at this point, the referees don't even care if it's a foul or not. They don't even care if people know it's a foul. Like, dude, it collided on him and squashed him in midair. Give him the foul, but he wasn't getting it. And I feel his frustrations. But Greg, I agree with you. You started to see as the refs stopped calling the fouls, as the Bulls were attacking the basket, mainly Alex Caruso and Zach LaVine. The Bulls kind of reverted back to shooting jump shots and just went away from their game plan. And I feel like, and Stacey even alluded to that, they got to still keep attacking the rim and not get discouraged and force the onus on the officials to call those calls, Greg.
yeah, yeah. I think that's probably gonna be the best strategy going forward because, like I said, and being jump shot happy, you're just playing into the other team's hands. It's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't have to go. Nobody's gonna get in foul trouble because you're just taking a jump shot. I just got to make sure that I'm not gonna be under you when you take that underneath you when I take that jump shot. So yeah, they need to be more aggressive when it comes to that. Um, on the defensive end as well, they need to the rotations and they need to step it up defensively as well. Offensively, like I said, not be jump shot happy. Defensively, better rotations, better help defense.
They shot 6% from the field, man. 7 for 38 from 3 point. You got to drive the basketball, man. You got to go at the rim, man. You know what I mean? And I'm not happy with the way we're getting the jumpers because we're just hoisting them. We're not even getting them in rhythm or running them through plays. We're just shooting them with defense all over us, man. You got to force them to get them in foul trouble. At least if you get them in foul trouble, Greg, that'll lower their aggressiveness because they don't want to foul out. But try to drive to the rim and force the officials to call it. They're not going to keep letting you get hit without calling it if you draw attention to it. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep attacking that rim. But for me, I just think it's just the heart of the team. they just look like they don't have no heart, Greg. They look like they came in this game expecting to lose. I really can't say that either because in the first two quarters they really were going back and forth with the Bucks. But the game I felt got out of hand when the Bucks started getting layups and they started incorporating more of their bigs in the game like Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. So when they started like implementing more bigs into the game, Greg, I felt like that's where the game got out of hand. And then you had Ibaka hitting threes, and they just started causing a lot of matchup problems for us defensively. Javante Green did the best he could on some of their bigs. I felt like he did a good job getting a little like sneak steals from some of their bigs and forcing them to think, while they were going up. And he was pestering Portis a little bit. But as a team, I don't feel like we play like good enough defense, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even still, as hard as Javante plays, he's still undersized when we look at these teams. Like that is part of the issue. That I bring it back around to coaching, because now you don't even necessarily have the excuse of we don't have size.
Mm-hmm.
You got Tristan Thompson, you got Derrick Jones Jr., you got Patrick Williams back, right? Like you have some size to be able to try to throw a little bit of size going in there. Not, I'm not saying get Javante off the floor because I understand what he brings,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I like he's what 6'4", going up these guys against these guys there's that's 6'8" and taller,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Well, the Bulls are 42-30. So if they're gonna win 50 games, Greg, they got to go 8-2 the rest of the way. I don't see that happening. Um, I don't know if they can possibly catch the Celtics for the number 4 seed and get home court advantage in that first round. At this point, that seems like the only thing that they have to play for. I don't see what else they can play for at this point, man. I know they're not going to get in the top three because those top three teams are just rolling, and I don't think they're going to lose that many games and drop that much for us to get ahead. We're what 4.5 games behind for the number 1 seed, Greg.
5 games.
Yeah, so I don't think the Bulls are going to get that high. Their best bet is to try to get home court in the first round. But like for me, even that doesn't even matter. What matters for me is I know most fans because I've been reading a lot of comments around the league. They want home court, but I just want the Bulls playing well. I think we could win anywhere. Doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's all about playing well, clicking well, and like I spoke to you about before, Greg, the Celtics is one of those teams I wanted to play in the playoffs. So kind of works out in that way too because we've never defeated the Celtics in a playoff series. So we will finally get that opportunity. And the last time we were in the playoffs, Greg, we played those same Boston Celtics that knocked us out. So in that sense, it would be something for me to look forward to in that matchup. But like we spoke about on the last podcast, Greg, the Celtics are rolling.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, they are. It's going to be definitely a tough battle, uphill battle, especially having to go into Boston and steal a win or two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like you said, like when the Bulls are clicking, they can hang with anybody. The
Mm-hmm.
issue is they don't do it consistently, and they apparently, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a mental block or what, but they don't seem to be able to do it against the better teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So if they could get over that, I don't know if it's lack of confidence or what. Like if they go in with that, oh, we're the Bulls, we're the underdog or whatever, and we're expecting to lose, like you said. But it seems like there's a point in the game, like you mentioned in the Milwaukee game, right? There's a point when they're going back and forth, and then all of a sudden Milwaukee kind of starts rolling, and then the Bulls just throw in the towel. They're like, oh, there it is, and then there's you end up getting blown out. Like so, whatever it is, they need to get over that mental hurdle, right? Because you've seen it against other teams where like you can go back and forth and the Bulls make a run and then they just kind of keep going and they're fine. But there's a point, when you play Milwaukee, when you play like even the other night in Utah, even against Phoenix for a while, like they were going back and forth for a while, and then these teams go on a run,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just like the Bulls are like, oh well, I guess we just gonna lose this game, and it's like you still got like a whole the rest of the quarter, a whole another half to play, and you just gave up for whatever reason. So I think again, some of that needs to be with aggressiveness and going to the hole and doing what these teams are doing to you. Like these teams are not scared at all to go in the hole on you, right? Like you need to do some of that to them. Get these guys in foul trouble. Get some easy free throws, things like that. Build your confidence that way. And again, better help defense, better rotations.
I had a friend named KG on the Bullseye group. He's gonna actually come in, and he's gonna join the panel with us, and he's gonna add to that Talking Bulls feature that I've been trying to push since this show started. In fact, this show was originally called Talking Bulls for those who's just joining us and haven't been with us that long. Also, like and subscribe to the channel, please, to help us out and support. If you like anything that we're saying in this podcast, also comment below so we can interact with you as fans. But yeah, my brother KG was just saying on the Bullseyes Facebook group, Greg, he said he thinks this team just was satisfied making the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
And based on seeing the team performing, Greg, I can't say I disagree with him, man. They just look like a team that has packed it in. And they're like, well, we got like 8 games left. But that doesn't even make sense either because we're not like a lock for number 5. We can still miss the playoffs
Mm-hmm.
because we're not ahead that much from the AC or from playing position, dropping to number 6. Because I know you got to drop the number 7 to be in the play-in, and we're not that far from that. But I can't. Truthfully speaking, I can't see Toronto and Brooklyn catching us. I can't.
Yeah.
The Bulls will have to go the rest of the way. What they got 10 games, they will have to go 1-9 or something like that the rest of the way for those teams to catch them. And I just don't see that happening because they got a lot of gimme games, Greg, in this stretch. The next game is a gimme game against New Orleans.
Yeah. No, I agree totally. It's just like you said, like we don't know which Bulls team we're gonna get. Like that's as a fan, that's the most frustrating part, right? Like I
Mhm.
mentioned this the last podcast, right? Like when these guys are clicking, it's like, yeah, man, like I see the potential, right? Like we could do some damage. We could make some noise. And then they just come out and they're just flat and just like it's like, is this even the same team? Right? Like
Yeah.
it's like the Monstars went and stole their powers or something like that, man. Like it's just like what's really going on? So like you said, like very kind of unlikely scenario that they missed the playoffs, but also, as a fan, like I don't feel like they should be satisfied with, oh, well, we didn't make the playoffs the past few years. We made the playoffs. That's an accomplishment. I get that that's a step towards your ultimate goal, but like when you're in the playoffs, like once you make the playoffs, like it should be championship mentality, right? Because anything could happen in the playoffs. We've seen eighth seeds go to the championship, right? Like we've seen teams that we didn't expect get there. Does it happen often? No, but it's also not impossible to happen. So, like you need to have that mentality of like, I need to put myself in the best position to win in the playoffs. And when we're there, we're not just gonna be like, oh, we're just happy to be here. Like, no, we're here to win.
Mm-hmm. And it's ironic that in the past 2 games, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan has scored the same amount of points. They both had 26 against Toronto and against the Bucks they both had 21. But it seemed like Zach's 21 was more aggressive and more assertive than DeRozan's. And to tell you the truth, I thought Zach was the only one that was aggressive in this game, really. Granted, Vooch had 22 and 7 in this, 22 points and 7 rebounds. But it just seemed like Zach was just attacking Greg. His points just came different than those other guys. Him and
Mm-hmm.
Caruso was also attacking the rim too. But it just seemed like Zach was the only one that really came to play along with Caruso. Caruso's not an offensive guy, but offensively, Zach was forcing the issue.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think for Zach, like I get he's a very, very good 3-point shooter, but I
Mhm.
really do want him to attack the basket. And I think DeMar too, like DeMar really just falls in love with that mid-range jumper. Like that looks like to me when he comes up the court, that's his first thought. Okay, I'm gonna get to the mid-range and take a jump shot. Not like I'm going to try to get to the hole and then maybe I could stop and pop if I have room. It's no, I'm gonna take this jumper and then
But,
occasionally he goes to the hole.
but you notice before he even turns around and do that fadeaway, teams are trapping him before he even turns around to shoot that.
That's because it's predictable. It's easy. Oh, he's backing down. We already know he's not going to pass it. right? Like
Right.
once he decided to back down, like I can, as I'm watching a game, I see times when he's dribbling up the court, and I can be like, okay, he's not going to pass it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can tell, right? And this is just me observing on the TV, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not playing the game, so I'm pretty sure the defenders know this, right? Like they get a feeling like, okay, he's not going to pass it. He's just going to back down and shoot. Like there is no type of offense that they're getting into. It's just okay. Well, Demar is just going to shoot because he decided he wanted to get a jump shot off. Jump shot off. Does he make it sometimes? Yes. I'm not going to knock him for it, but at the same time, right? Like that's not a very good offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just decide, nah, I'm just going to shoot it, right? Like that's not like you're not getting other guys involved. You're getting double teamed. You decide, well, I'm just gonna shoot out of it, right? Like that's not good, right? Like
It's
okay,
not.
I get it, you make it, but you're not making it at a ridiculous clip either, right? Like if you're doing this and you're making it 80% of the time, all right, I guess I'm willing to live with that, but you're not, right? Like, so no, you need like you have options, right? Like you can pass the ball around, swing it. It doesn't mean the ball is not going to come back to you. The
Mm-hmm.
issue is the ball sticks with you half the time, and
Right.
then that makes the offense very predictable.
Yeah, and slow. And then like I felt like the Bucks had gotten the Bulls in a half court game and tried to make them play fast in a half court game. And that don't even make any sense. Like when you shrink the court, basically the defense could force you into all kinds of misses, force you into all kinds of traps, basically slow you down and then limit your passes, get in your passing lane and force you into an ISO game. And I felt like, they targeted Zach and DeMar and was basically forcing everybody else to beat him. Kobe White is not just he's not hitting anything. And this is not the first time he played bad against the Bucks. Maybe this is one of those teams where he doesn't play well against, but I really needed Kobe to hit some shots that last night. And he could have hit any. The Javante Green, I like the way he started the game with that slam. And he was aggressive the whole night, but I don't know what it is about him. But offensively, it seemed like he's lost a lot. He's not giving us as much offensively. I mean, he's attacking the rim and he's getting those hustle plays. But I remember he was getting us 3-pointers and everything last time, Greg. Now he's just getting
Well,
us
yeah,
those
he's
dunks.
not. He's not really looking to shoot the three, which is what I brought up last time on the podcast,
Right.
where they're giving him corner threes, and if he can't drive to the hole, he's just gonna pass it up. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and you can watch him. If you watch the game, he just kind of roams around the baseline. Like you said, he gets those hustle points, he gets the easy drives, easy layups, easy dunks, things like that. But he also has the option for the corner three immediately when the ball gets to him. His first thought is, okay, I can't get to the hole. I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna pass it off to somebody else, and then like the advantage that you have is completely gone. And then when you get against a team like Milwaukee, who has length, who has size, especially playing in a half court game, that works to their advantage because there's less court for you to operate in. And then, not even that they need to jump the passing lane because they really don't, because it's
Mm-hmm.
just going to be hard to shoot over them because they're, at a lot of the positions, they're bigger than you, they're taller than you.
Right.
So, with that being said, right, like we talked about against Toronto how they wanted to push the pace, right? Like when you
Mm-hmm.
get a team like, you know, a Milwaukee or even a team like Miami who has size, you're going to want to push the pace because in a half court, like I said, they have that size advantage over you, especially with the Bulls playing small ball. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to try to force mismatches. And the best way to do that, I mean, because you can try to run screen and roll, but again, they're lengthy all over the court. So those switches don't really help you, right? Like, oh,
Well, if you go small, Greg, and you play a full court, you force their bigs to play an open court game and run the floor a lot more, full blast, full court.
yeah, but
And
they're
I
not
don't
they're not doing that.
exactly, yep. And that's
So
my thing with Billy Donovan. If you and AK want to build this team as a small ball team, then you have to play to your strengths. You can't play a half court offense and try to shoot the whole time. That plays into the opponent's hands. You want to run the ball and get this team off their heels, get easy points. Um, they did that against Toronto, and it just seemed like in that second half against Toronto, Greg, where they were forcing turnovers and then they were getting out and running, and that's where I felt open the game up. But when Toronto kept them in a half court in that first half, I told you that, Greg, that kept the offense stagnant, and the Toronto was forcing them into misses more easier. But you got to make these teams run, man. These teams can't run and guard you at the same time. Most of them don't want to do that.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree with you totally. Like there's, I mean, it's just frustrating, right? Like, because we
Hmm.
see what, but we see what they do well in spurts, and we see that it works too. That's the thing,
Hmm.
and then you just go away from it, and it's like, why? Like, why are you not going back to something that worked, something that we've seen clearly other teams have difficulty with stopping or do not stop at all, and then like the next game is just like it never happened, right? And it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, and that makes no sense. It's frustrating. And I'm like, I feel like that is coaching, right? Like if you see a weakness and you exploit it, but then you're like, yeah, I'm only gonna do it for, this 8 minute stretch, and I'm just not gonna go back to it. Like that is absolute madness. And then I'm like, I'm just gonna keep going back to this thing that teams can prepare for. I'm just gonna keep going back to this ISO ball with DeMar or this pick and roll game with Vooch. Like, oh yeah, teams can stop that. Yeah, but I'm just gonna keep going and doing it. Why? Right? Like when you pick up the pace, oh man, like we're getting these mismatches, everybody's kind of flying around, and we're seeing the energy, we're increasing the lead, but yet you don't want to stick with that. And it makes no sense to me.
Well, Zach Levine was quoted in an article by Mark Spears, stating that he's ready to end his playoff drought, and I couldn't agree with him more, man. Like, I mean, it's hard to believe that Zach has never been in the playoffs, as good as he is. Not even in Minnesota, he hasn't been in the playoffs. And that Minnesota team with him, Cat, and Wiggins, they weren't able to make the playoffs, and all three of those guys are all stars now, Greg. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, even still, I get that you want to end your playoff drought, but like, is that what your goal is?
mm,
Because if that's your goal, okay, then he sounds satisfied just making the playoffs.
just
Congratulations,
what
you
I
ended your
said
playoff.
a
You
couple
you
minutes
ended your
ago.
playoff drought. Yeah, congratulations. So we good now? Is that it? We just going all right? We get eliminated in the first round. We just gonna go home, but you happy?
Right.
Like
And
that's
this is
that's
what I
not.
spoke about a couple podcasts ago with you, Greg. I don't know if you remember this, but I told you, like, you can't settle for just one thing. You don't know how good you are and how good you can be if you just lay it all out there. And they're playing like, all right, we gonna get in the playoffs so we could just chill. Nah, man, just keep on going. With all of these teams this year that's still finding themselves in the East, the Bulls could find themselves in the finals. So why you want to just stop at just making the playoffs? Next year it's going to be harder when teams get to know each other and everything like that. A whole year in a training camp under the Sixers, James Harden is going to be better equipped with the Sixers. Teams are going to be better. Teams are going to make moves. This is the year with all of the COVID protocols and everything that's been going on, Greg. I felt like this was the year that the Bulls should have went after the championship, or at least tried to get into the finals. And then if you're going to get into next year, you have something to build confidence on. You got to the NBA Finals, and that will give you confidence going to next year. But just to go to the playoffs again this year and get knocked out the first round, I don't think psychologically that helps you at all. You just know that, okay, we're among the best, but we're not the best. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to if you make the finals, Greg, we could be the best. So we got something to build on next year and an actual real goal. You see what I'm saying? But to be honest with you, Greg, I've talked to a lot of friends that I discussed Bulls basketball with as well, off for the podcast. And man, I some of these moves that Arturas made, I don't know if it was him or Eversley, but they got rid of some guys that I felt like they should have kept. What happened to Jordan Bell? I heard they sent them to the G League to go play for the Ants. That's a guy you should have kept. That's a guy that could have helped us in the playoffs. He played with Golden State. He has a playoff experience under his belt. He's been in the trenches and battled in some tough games with Golden State. He knows how to win. Then you got rid of Stanley Johnson, another scrapper that I felt you should have kept. Then you got rid of they said he was on a two-way contract. Cook was apparently on a two-way contract, but I felt like they should have kept Cook or found a way to keep him because he was a scrapper down low and could get rebounds and get blocks and was a solid defender down low, Greg. These are the guys that they got rid of, and then you kept guys like Bradley that are dead weight. That's not adding anything to the team. So moving forward, and then you pick up guys like McClunny. I don't even know how to say his name, McClunny, that guy that they picked up that used to play for the Lakers.
Oh,
Short guy, a guard, huh?
yeah, Matt McClung. I
Yeah,
mean,
Matt McClung. But
I get that. I get some of it in the sense of like again looking at where they were during the season, right? Like they just needed bodies. I kind of get that. And yeah, we can look back at it in hindsight of like, yeah, they should have kept some of these guys. No, they probably shouldn't have let some of these guys go. But then some of it too was guys coming back off of injury and shuffling all of that stuff too. So like even in a sense, like I'm kind of like I'm
Because they got these guys, Greg, to fill a void because they needed emergency bodies because guys were falling off because of COVID and everything. But my thing was, Greg, these are the guys that you should have gotten. Instead of just getting an all small team, you should have got some guys that could scrap up front. Now you got Tristan Thompson and Vooch. Tristan Thompson is sometime he's 50-50 on his hustle inside, and Vooch just totally doesn't give you anything inside. So we're back at square one. Even if you picked up somebody in the trade deadline, even though you did, we're still where we were, Greg, as a weak team down low. But these guys that you let go, they could have helped us.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of look at it like this. Um, if you look at it, I think they signed Tony Bradley to a contract, right? Like that was the thing. But I think now, even if we kept Stanley Johnson, even if we kept, Cook, even if we had kept Jordan Bell, they wouldn't be playing anyway. Like just to be completely honest, they wouldn't be playing.
But
They would
that's
just
the
be sitting there.
problem. That's the issue right there. Why wouldn't they be playing? They should be playing based on what your needs are. You see what I'm saying? You can't sit guys down that can give you something and say, damn, we need that. We need that. We don't have that. We're struggling. We lost 9 in a row because we don't have that. But you have guys that sitting on your bench that can give you that. Now, if you have guys that can give what they can give and you don't need them, I can understand them sitting, but they can add something to the team and you have them rotting on the bench. Derrick Jones Jr., he hasn't played in the past few games. Is he injured?
I don't believe so. I think once
Why he
Pat
ain't
came,
playing? He could have helped us last night against
I
Milwaukee. You
think,
see what I'm saying?
yeah, I agree because he played really well against Giannis. I think, when Pat came back, he, for whatever reason, he got taken out of the rotation, which I didn't get. I think I mentioned on the podcast that I think that would have
Pat ain't
been.
ready yet, so you still should be playing Derrick Jones. And you got to get somebody out there that's going to force Giannis athletically to play defense, Greg.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, and I think even defensively, that's another body that you could throw at Giannis, especially somebody like again, like I said, played well against him.
Right.
So yeah, again, this is coaching, right? Like it's coming back to coaching. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, some of Billy Donovan's decisions I just do not understand,
Yep.
right? Like, and it's easy. I think all season long we've gotten caught up in this kind of roller coaster of when they're playing well, yeah, Billy Donovan's doing what he's supposed to do. But
Mm-hmm.
then when they're not, right, we're like, well, what is he doing, right? But like, I think if we go back and kind of look at it, when the Bulls are playing well, it still was a lot of the bad habits thing. Like when DeMar had that ridiculous stretch of shooting over 50%, right? Like and putting
Mm-hmm.
up 35 a game, right? Like it still wasn't kind of what, at least for me, what I wanted out of the offense itself. Like DeMar is playing great, right? Like can't knock it. He's shooting at a high clip, but as a team offensively, like there still was no flow to it. It
Mm-hmm.
was just give the ball to DeMar, all right, Zach's turn type of thing. Like that's kind of how it's been all season. And then like you said, like a lot of the rotation has been Mitch and Max and just trying to figure out and shuffle guys in and out. I get that. But like you said, I think Derrick Jones should be playing more,
Mm-hmm.
even with Pat, right? Like I think Tristan Thompson should be getting more time. Play him with Vooch, right? Like especially if you're going up against a big team like Milwaukee, play him with Vooch. Play a more traditional lineup. But Billy Donovan doesn't want to do that. I guess because again, if you're doing that, it's gonna shorten Javante's minutes. Or like you can just go big, right? Like you can like if you really wanted to, you could put Zach at the point. He was a point guard coming out of college. If you want to go big, like you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you really need Javante, on the floor and let him play, the two or the three or whatever.
And the
Not that
crazy
he's
thing
really
is,
gonna.
he couldn't even guard Drew Holiday last night. Maybe he been guarding big so long he forgot how to guard guards. Because Drew Holiday was just crossing him over and shooting right in his face. I'm like, dang, Javante. I don't know, Greg, man. It's a big mess, man. And it's like you said, man, you can't have it both ways. If you want to play small ball, you have to run the ball. If you want to play big boy basketball, then you play half court. But you're
Well, they
trying
don't
to play
even do
half
that.
court. That's
But
what I'm
they don't.
saying.
They don't even do that. Like they do it at the beginning of the game. Okay, we'll give Vooch the ball in the post like three times in a row, and then they go away from it. And the thing is, it works. Like that. That's what's so mind blowing. It's
Mm-hmm.
like okay. like you talked about, like Vooch, get your big butt in the post. He does it and it works. And then as the game goes on, they completely go away from it
You know why?
inexplicably.
You know why I think they're doing that? Because they want to please and satisfy certain guys. That's why I think Billy Donovan needs to get tougher as a coach. I don't care if DeMar wants to shoot the basketball and get his touches. I'm going with what works. If he's getting double teamed and we're getting low post points and that's opening up everybody else, that's what we go with. That isolation stuff, we'll go to DeMar when we really need buckets. But if that's working, you gotta stick with that. It's not about who's getting touches or who's the head of the team. We got to go with what works and we got to run through him. And I feel when we run through Vooch, it opens everything up.
Well, yeah, because I think Vooch is a really good passer. Like that's the thing that gets lost in this. Like if Vooch is working in the post when you are forced to double team Vooch, he's not the type of person like I'm gonna force this shot. No, I'm gonna look for the open guy, whether it's a cutter or whether it's somebody for an open jump shot. But the ball gets to moving, and the ball moves faster than the defense does, right? So somebody's gonna be open. Somebody's gonna get an easy open shot. But like I said, they just don't stick with it. And it does, like you said, they want to play this half court, but then they don't have any plays. They want to pretend like they want to play big boy ball, but that lasts for all of 30 seconds, and then they're done with that. And then they don't want to run, but yet you want to play small ball, and kind of the most effective way to do that is to run. So it just doesn't make sense. It's just like I said, like it feels like every time he finds something that works, he's like, yeah, well, nah, I'm gonna go away from it. And it to me, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna let my brother, my brother Greg. I'll let my brother Greg go and chill with his family. He got some food that came in. He want to chill with his wife and kids, and we're pretty much done here on the Bulls Guys podcast for you Bulls fans. When we come back, we're gonna go into my final word, and then we're gonna wrap it up right after this. You want the most uncensored and blunt podcast? The Bulls Guys podcast. There's only K-Dub and Greg Love can bring it to you. Follow us on Anchor, Spotify, and all social media platforms. Final word. Final word. So the Bulls drop one again as the struggle continue. How can they get over the struggle? The Bulls must look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, are we giving enough? And if the answer is no, the Bulls must find that extra gear to go to where they can lift their play and be more productive. Productivity is all you can achieve. Productivity is all you can give, and it might just be enough. But lately the Bulls haven't been given enough. But you have to ask yourself, as competitors, how bad do we want to win? And with 10 games left on the schedule, the Bulls will find that out sooner than later. All right, so Greg, another one in the books, man. Great show. Really appreciate you, brother, and the way you really contribute to the Bulls Guys podcast brand. We're probably the best team in podcast history.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, like I'm loving every second of this, man. I'm loving how it's going. I'm loving having these conversations. Like I'm loving when we don't agree on stuff, man, because it's real, right? Like it isn't like, oh yeah, I agree 100%. Like yeah, we agree, but at the same time, right? Like we can disagree, and that's what makes a good podcast. And it's not always the same opinion that everybody's turning out. So I think as real Bulls fans, right? Like yeah, we see the good things we do, but we also see the flaws, and we call it out. That's all I like to see.
Yeah, man, I'm just hoping the Bulls get it together, man. Springtime used to be the best time of the year when the Bulls were making the playoffs. And I had high hopes for this team going to the playoffs, and I really feel like they will make it. But it just puts you on a sour note, Greg, to be losing games like this going in. You want to kind of feel positive about yourself and winning and be on a good, high note going in, But maybe we'll do better in the playoffs. So this is just something to wake us up going in so we can play better and be alert and ready and to see what our flaws are so we can correct them for the playoffs. But anyways, we love our Bulls and we wish them well. And, I'm just hoping, we can go to the playoffs. But as far as the regular season, Greg, I'm not even going to lie to you, brother. The only reason why I'm watching this team for the rest of the regular season is because we got to keep up with what they're doing for the podcast. Other than that, I would have tuned this team out, Greg, because they're just playing horrible, man. I can understand, losing, but you got to go out there and try, man, and fight. And I seriously don't believe they're doing that. But we're gonna keep supporting the Bulls here, and we're gonna keep bringing our fans great content. Also, like and subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter at Talking Bulls 82 to get the latest news updates on your Chicago Bulls. Send us your emails at talkingbulls82@gmail.com. Follow us on the Facebook page of the Bulls Guys Facebook page. Mr. Greg Love, your last words.
Yeah, man. Please go ahead and share us. Share us with that random person that you end up in a laundry room with, and it's just awkward because either one of y'all want to talk. Just go ahead and share. Let them know. Maybe next time you have something to talk about.
All right. All right. Good night. Go Bulls. We're gonna see you possibly in the next game if my brother Greg it was available to do the podcast against New Orleans. Hopefully, we get a victory.
Let's go Bulls.